Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's with their time and bandwidth.
Today's game is Vampire Therapist. Turns out even vampires are struggling with mental health in the hell world we live in. Should you therapize the undead, or leave them to their problems? Let's find out. Vampire Therapist is a static visual novel about helping immortal beings get over their behavioral problems with cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's a game where I can finally use my psych degree for something, as well as years of therapy as a reference. You play as Sam, cowboy vampire, who after some introspection has decided he wants to help his fellow vampires change some of their negative thinking, so he goes to Europe to train with Andy, a 3,000-year-old therapist vampire. After some lessons, Sam is now therapizing a handful of vampire clients ranging from a Shakespearean artist, an overworked doctor, or a 1,000-year-old Twitch recluse in an attempt to help them sort out their problems. The premise is immediately captivating, as combining traditional cognitive behavioral therapy with beings that can live forever is a neat gimmick, and the game leans heavily into that to keep its story brisk and engaging. These are immortal beasts used to killing and sex, and the game doesn't shy away from it. Sam is also, despite his kind of goofy accent, a kind and relatable protagonist, tasked with helping some very resistant and very odd characters, my favorite being Da Vinci's muse, who has given up all hope on the arts after watching The Rise of Skywalker. Gameplay-wise, this is a static visual novel, so you'll be reading a lot of text and there aren't any routes or anything, but therapy sessions play similar to trials in Phoenix Wright. You're taught a whole set of cognitive distortions like overgeneralization or black and white thinking, and if a patient says something that seems out of line, Sam glows red, and you can call him out on it. In later cases, you can only choose 5 of your roster of distortions, so you can't catch everything, but the game surprisingly does a good job teaching you how to recognize these ways of thinking. As such, the loop is simple. You do a therapy session with either a new or returning patient, then there's usually a short scene going over how the session went and advancing some plot, and then it's on to the next. Every couple of sessions, you'll hang with Andy to both get more therapy for Sam, as well as learn more distortions you can apply to the next patient. The story moves very briskly and isn't afraid to dabble in some sensitive topics like sex, consent, self-worth, and even some existential stuff. Despite these heady topics, the game generally does very well, neither underplaying them nor trying to use them for edge or clout. It's overall very tasteful. And that really is Vampire Therapist, a unique visual novel meets Phoenix Wright, where you'll be doing your best to help vampires learn to deal with the realities of the modern day. So what I like about Vampire Therapist? Well, the voice acting here is fantastic and is paired with some excellent writing. It's the rare visual novel where I'd often wait to hear an entire voice line rather than just skip it. On that note, each character is unique and interesting, and their issues feel genuine. While some are certainly more fantastical, as they're vampires, they're all rooted in how real people view and think about themselves, which makes even the most vampire-y vampire surprisingly human. And lastly, the concept around teaching the player around cognitive distortions and then having you choose which ones to bring to therapy sessions is a surprisingly good tool in teaching you how to identify these ways of thinking and address them, not just in the game, but possibly even for yourself. When it comes to the bad, the game has some mixed messaging around consent. It jokes a lot about Sam being a prude American, which is fair, I guess, but in multiple instances, the game forces you to engage in activities that Sam clearly wasn't interested in. I honestly thought this was going to have some sort of payoff at the end, but it doesn't, which kind of just muddies that overall point. Additionally, the meditation minigame sucks. It has no tutorial and is unfun to engage with. Oddly enough, the meditation minigame is the game's most stressful part. And this may be beyond the scope of this review, but I'm personally mixed on CBT in general. While this is a fictional representation, a lot of CBT comes up with trying to disprove the patient's bad thinking, which on one hand is fine, but on the other feels like a bit like you're invalidating their emotional state. A well-trained or good therapist will definitely know how to balance both, but gamifying it here only exacerbates the overly logical gotcha that CBT can feel like. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale, must play, maybe consider, and don't bother, and Vampire Therapist is a fantastic little visual novel, and one that might even teach you some Psych 101 by the end. The characters are memorable and well-voiced, their stories are engaging and have plenty of twists, and the writing is superb. While there are some minor issues with the game's message and gamification of therapy, I still had a great time playing through it. So if you enjoy visual novels and psychoanalyzing your friends, Vampire Therapist is for you. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played or even heard of Vampire Therapist, the creator mentioned it on Twitter, and I was like, this game was pretty much just made for me. But I want to know what you think in the comments, so please let me know, and then go out there and maybe give Vampire Therapist a look.